everyone, my name is Oyinkan Akintola-Bello and I'm OnPeople.
Welcome to another episode of OnPeople, a podcast on people at work, where we dive into stories, insights, and learnings from the forefront of Africa's work scene. My name is Anema, and I'm back here with my co-host, Tom.
Today's guest operates at one of the most critical intersections in African tech, where policy, regulation, and innovation collide. She's a governance and technology expert with a legal background and has spent her career building bridges between government, tech ecosystems, and international development across sub-Saharan Africa. She led the governance and digital security practice at Co-Creation Hub, CC Hub, one of Africa's most influential innovation hubs, before becoming country manager of the UK Nigeria Technology Hub under the UK Foreign Commonwealth Development Office. Her work has spanned Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, and beyond, helping shape the policies and frameworks that enable African tech to thrive while keeping startups compliant and secure. If you're wondering who this is, look no further than Oyinkan Akintola-Bello. Oyinkan, welcome to OnPeople.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you here.
Yes, we are. Okay, Oyinkan. So you started with a law background, and we've seen how you've navigated into governance and technology. Take us through your journey. What was it like? What formed your decisions? How did you decide to veer out of traditional legal practice, and now you're at the intersection of law and technology?
That is a long question, but I'll try to be as short as I can. So actually, funny enough, I hope my parents probably won't listen to this, but I actually never really wanted to study law. So I remember when I was younger, when everyone asked me what I wanted to be, I was like, I wanted to be a genetic engineer because I just found it so fascinating, right? But when I got to secondary school, I was just like, actually, this physics of a thing, I can't be bothered with it. And my mom and I had a huge fight about dropping. She said I was being lazy. She was like, okay, what do you want? What are you going to do if you don't do? Because I was really good at biology and chemistry, but physics was just not my bag. And we had a huge fight, and I was like, oh, then I'm just going to do law. And she was like, what do you mean? And honestly, the reason I chose it because one of my friends in secondary school wanted to be a lawyer.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about law. In fact, when we used to talk, and she would say, oh, there was a book that she really liked. I think it was called To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Do you know, I used that book for all my essays, and I've never read that book till today. I kept saying that was the book that made me want to be, because she said, that's what she said, right? And that's what I used for all my uni essays.
It's open.
I've never till today, I haven't read that book, but I used to get into uni and everything. So I think, so the pivot wasn't, I think along the way I convinced myself that, I wanted to do law because it was interesting and it was something that I found interesting. So, finished my degree, but I also wasn't very serious, and maybe that's where I should have known that actually. I literally just graduated by the skin of my teeth. And then just following the traditional thing, I then did then it was called the Bar Vocational Course. So I qualified to be a lawyer in the UK.
Which is tough.
It is tough. It is tough. But I think it was interesting, but looking back, I wasn't passionate about it, right? So I came to Nigeria, did law school because that was like the traditional thing at the time. Also, it was just there, like I had to go to law school. I wasn't really listening in class. I was just literally just there to take attendance, and by God's grace, I passed.
Make sure you don't fail.
Yeah. Because law school exams were tough, man. So did that, and then when the actual practice came, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Because I had done the bar in the UK, I had this dream of doing being a barrister in Nigeria, but the reality was did not live up to expectation. It was so boring, and it was a lot. So the thing about Nigerian law, and I think it's changed a bit, but it's still the same, is that we don't argue the substantive matter of the case, which means Tom and Anema are fighting. Why are they fighting? That's the substantive matter, right? What we do is, okay, when the Tom filed this case in court, 31 days. No, she should have filed it in 19 days. So the judge should strike out the case based on that. We practice, I haven't practiced law in a while, but at that time, it's law based on technicality.
Yeah.
So very few cases are on the substantive matter. If you look through let me just stop. I don't want to cause my legal luminaries. I don't just listen to it. So for me, that was very frustrating because you go to court and you'd want to argue the stuff because that's what's actually interesting, right?
That is interesting. That's what you watch.
What is precedent, right? But then you're seeing precedent on if a matter is filed in 10 days or the person was in Abuja, they came to file in Lagos, strike it out because it's not Abuja, it's not all those things. But then also, I think there was also at that time, a lot of sexism as well. I remember going to court one time and it was me and I was the junior lawyer and there was a senior lawyer and he said, literally stood up to the judge and said, oh, well, I can't bother to argue this case. Can we just present, can the court just adopt? So when the court adopts, it means that just submit your paper, they'll read it and decide. You don't actually have to do anything. Verbal argument. He just looked at me and said, first of all, she's a junior. And also, I'm sure she has better things to do at home. Or something, one very stupid comment. And then I was really young, so I was just okay, let's adopt. But if it was me now, I'd be are you crazy? Let's argue. Even if I lose, let's argue. Even if I'm not convincing, let me. So there's a lot of things like that. And I remember how, in fact, I worked at a law firm, and the firm, and I won't mention the name, but the firm said that the principal of the firm was saying that he doesn't believe in women going to court. He only believes in women being in the office, doing the clerical work or doing company law stuff, not the actual going to court and stuff. So a lot of that stuff was really annoying, and maybe I'm just a quitter because I just couldn't bother, right?
But we get it.
Yeah, and then I just so then I was just thinking, okay, so this is not something I'm interested in. Then what am I interested in, right? And I still didn't have an answer to that. And I remember one day I was just thinking, I think there was something on the news, and I think it was about conflict somewhere, and I was like, why do people fight? I don't understand why we have so many wars and stuff. I was like, okay, I'm interested in this, and I think I approached my master's as an area of interest, and I understand that I'm very privileged. Most people can't do that. Most people do a master's that they need because maybe they want to add on to something. But I did a master's in something that was interesting, right? And so I found a uni, and the course was called Conflict, Security and Development. So it was really around war, why are there wars and stuff like that. But in that, there were other things that I found interesting. So there was modules on sociology, on philosophy, and then the development part as well, which I had never done. And also, I think the uni that I went to for my master's was very liberal. So they really encouraged different ways of thinking and things like that. But the uni I went to for undergrad, because it was law, it was very straight, very Victorian, top 10. I'm almost killed myself to enter that university. I was if I don't enter this university, top 10, So it was a very different way of living, and I think that really influenced a lot of the way I think about life and creativity and innovation. So did that course. It was really good. I had a lot of lecturers that used to actually fight in the war in Afghanistan. So their perspectives were very interesting. It wasn't book knowledge. These guys have actually seen war, and they can tell you what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and they understand the whole politics of that stuff. And I think that also made me really think about systems. And so one of the courses that we did was really thinking about violence and who has a monopoly on violence. Why do we say the police has a monopoly on violence? Who gave them this power to be the only ones, right? So really questioning systems. Not saying that the system is wrong, but making you think, why? Why is that? And
what's the reason?
Yeah, what's the reason? And in America, anyone can carry guns and you think it's wrong, but why? That kind of thing. Anyway, fast forward, move back to Nigeria. I thought, oh my gosh, I was going to go to an IDP camp. I was going to be this amazing person talking about conflict. But in Nigeria, I couldn't really find a job that I wanted. I wanted a job at the UN, those kind of things, right? And so I ended up volunteering at a secondary school for a while in close to my area, and I think that also really pushed me towards development as well. Because when I went there, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a public school.
Yeah, I have.
Honestly, it was terrible. and it was also almost the hopelessness that the children felt. It was, and even the teachers, they almost felt like nothing is ever going to change. And even when you try to say, oh, let's do this, they were just like, oh, that's not the way
how we do it.
You know how we do it. Then I got a job. While I was doing that, then I got a job at like an exhibition firm at the time, and they used to do exhibitions, and they were so interesting because that's also like a different world entirely. And that's how I met Tom, actually, because there was an exhibition that I think maybe the person that had left for me had put her name down to be at like a HR conference or something. And so I took up the coach, and I called Tom, and she's like, oh, I'm not sure. Then I called her, I said, okay, I'll reduce the price for you, please just come.
And
that was basically how I met Tom. And we didn't actually chat, we just said hi on that day, and that was it, right? So I worked there for like 2 years. It was a really interesting experience, but I think that was the place that I almost felt like, okay, like I could definitely give more. And then I started applying for jobs. So I had done an interview at Konga at the time, and Konga was just like bubbling under as the new tech. I had done an interview for like
e-commerce.
Legal, right? Because in my mind I was still going, okay, this development thing, I'm not getting job. Okay, let me go back to the law that's at least I know, right? And then I had done an interview for Legal. I had done well in the interview. So I was waiting for them to call me to come and start. And then they decided to restructure. So then they said they didn't need the role anymore. And I was so sad. I was so devastated. But like a year later, the head of legal had called back. And I think this is something around like just doing your best, no matter what. Like, and like giving your best at every interview, right? Because even if you didn't get it, and even when they messaged me and said, oh, we're not recruiting for the role again, I was like, okay, that's fine, thank you so much for the time and whatnot. And she called me and said, oh, she remembered me from last year, and that there's a role open that it's not in the legal team, but it's in the office of the CEO, and that she thinks I'll be a good fit for it. I said, okay, let me try it first. I went in, had a conversation, I looked, I said, who are these people with laptop? Because I was like, so worked at Konga, and I think there's something important about working in a place that allows you to be flexible and do many things at the same time. And I think that was Konga of old. I don't know what Konga of new is, so no, I can't vouch for them. No, but I think Konga of old, and I think every single person that went to Konga. And there's something also about working in a company that you actually love, right? And everyone that worked at Konga at the time actually loved being there. And you can just tell it was so infectious. Like, people are coming to work because they want the company to succeed, right? And like when we would have sales, you see people like, we would have this board and people would be coming. Like, you didn't really have to tell people 2 times to do their job. Or you didn't have to tell, this is a generalization because obviously there are people that still don't want to be right, but you didn't have to do that. And I think one thing I really took away from Konga is the ability to transform yourself at no matter what stage you're at. There's a guy that used to work at Konga. He used to be a cleaner, right? And by the time he left, he was like a product manager or something. Like, that is how transformational like technology is. And that's what made me think that, okay, do you know what, this thing can actually change people's lives. So I worked in the office of CEO as the executive assistant. When I was working that job, I felt like at some point I felt like I'm too good for this job. Like, sometimes if you feel like I should be doing more, but I think there was a reason. And I think that along my journey I've realized that there's a reason why God has put me wherever I find myself. I feel like that place was to teach me that you don't know anything, right? You think you know, but you don't know. And there's so many things I learned there, because when you're at that level, and honestly, I always tell people that being an executive assistant is one of the best jobs you can do very early in your career, because it helps you really see and understand like the company from beginning to end. Like, you're in board meetings, you're in investor meeting, you're talking to the CEO. He's telling you
like him.
Then he'll say, "Oh, I'm thinking about this new idea. Go and research it." I know that we have ChatGPT. So you enter the weeds, right? Because he wants to know this thing I'm trying to think about. Where can I start from? Right. So I remember when we were trying to do Konga Daily, which is like a grocery service. He said, "Go and study Amazon Fresh and all the other people that are doing." I said, "What's my own business with all these people?" But you have to because you have to give him something like that is basic, so that he can even start thinking about it, even pricing, all that stuff. You're working with marketing on campaigns. You're thinking about, because we had a payment gateway at the time. I think they might still have it. It's called Konga Pay. I worked in Konga Pay, right? You really understand engineers and how they think. You understand honestly,
the entire business,
warehousing, logistics, you understand
exposure.
Honestly. And I would say, and that's why and you just need to do it and give it your all, your 100%. It can be a frustrating job, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to pacify because it almost seems like you're the bridge between the company and the CEO, right? So you have to be friendly enough and nice enough that people in the company talk to you, because you also get information, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have to be discreet enough that the CEO can tell you things and you're not going to go and do
spilling,
to other people, right? And then you have to manage both parties. So when the CEO is complaining about the employee, you say, but is this, you won't say, this is what this person told me, but you say, but that, do you get?
Yeah.
Then on the company side, when they're complaining about the management, say, so it was just a really interesting role around managing people and just understanding technology in general, because then now if you break Konga into that's the different businesses that we have now with technology, right? So then Konga got acquired, and then I was thinking, okay, is this still the place for me? The culture changed a bit. And that's, different businesses, different cultures, people change different things, and then I just thought, okay, what is my next step going to be? And I remember seeing CC Hub, and I had never heard of CC Hub before. I looked them up. I was like, okay, it's interesting. They had a role open. I applied, but I was not hearing anything. I said, I'm not hearing anything from these people. I said, okay, who do I know in this company? Who do I know that can make sure that they see my CV? So I now started looking around. I said, who do I know? And then I think I then found that someone called Tomu worked there. I was like, how do you know her name? Sounds familiar. I said, no, I know this lady. So I remember I went to look for her email. I sent her a message. I said, you might not remember me, but my name is Oyinkan. I applied for this role. Please just consider my CV. Just look at it. That was it. Then also, I think one of my friends had she was going into City Hall for an interview. Not an interview, she was meeting one of the founders. I said, I have applied for this company. Please tell them to please invite me for interview. Not even, so it wasn't even, hire me, right? Just give me a chance to interview.
Step into the door.
That was basically it. And that was it. And I persisted, and then I got an email. I was super excited. Then I got an email, and then I had an interview with one of the co-founders, and one of the questions he asked me that I remember, he's like, do you think this job is going to be easy? I said, no, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to give him my best. And that's what I told him. He's like, you think this job is easy? I said, no, it's not. And I think that CC Hub, it was so transformational in my life, because it gave me an opportunity to do so many things I had never done before. I had never done anything digital security. Governance I had done a bit because I did compliance while I was at Konga. So I worked in the legal team a lot, and I did a lot of compliance. I used to speak to CBN, but this was very different. Governance was very different for startups, right? It was corporate governance, board, this and that, then regulators, making sure that you know who your regulators are. So it was very different, but it was such a rich experience, and I loved working there so much. I had some great team members, and honestly, and it also really taught me a lot about being a leader as well, because before that role I hadn't really been a leader. I was just I had teams, but I wasn't really a leader, because when you're an EA, there's respect, but it's not really. There's respect, but not really. And the people that I had managed while I was at EA they weren't really professionals, right? But these were professionals, and it was so interesting managing them. And again, best team. And so that was my CC Hub experience. And then the opportunity came up as where I am now, which is the country so it came up as another role, but actually was slightly lower than what I was on at CC Hub. But I think there's something around taking risk and knowing where you want to go and what you want your catalog to read right? So in my mind, I have okay, this is what I want to have on my list, and the opportunity enabled me to have that, and so I moved. So the salary difference was 50K. Might not even have been maybe 50K. Yeah, I think that was a salary difference. And it was actually even more inconvenient because at the time I lived like 5 minutes from City Hub. So I had to walk to the office. Right? So I had to drive in. But there's stuff that I really wanted to learn. And so I did that role. And it was a lower role. Still, I also had that feeling like, oh, you know what? I feel like, so maybe your brain is 100%. I almost felt like I was using 40% of my brain because I knew that wasn't really the role. Like I could have gotten in on a higher role, but this was just because I wanted to learn this thing, right? Yes. I took that pay cut, and it honestly paid off because what I learned and what I gained from doing that, and just so many different things, so many different areas. Like I didn't know anything about like communication, like actual comms infrastructure. It wasn't part of stuff I did at CC Hub or at Konga, but now like I understand like proper TV white space, like spectrum, things that I wasn't really thinking about in communication at the time, right? And then I always really enjoyed like startups and startup ecosystem, and because of CC Hub I really enjoyed working with startups and stuff. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, okay, do you know what, this is also something that I want to add to my repertoire, right? Something that I really want to be in the weeds with, like the startup ecosystem. And that's how I ended up where I am now. It's been an interesting journey, and I think that every single thing that I've done has added up to like where I am today. So like working exhibition company, you have to know how to do events. We do events all the time at the British High Commission, right? CC Hub, innovation, thinking outside the box, being on the implementer side helps you a lot. Like people that haven't actually implemented programs can't design good programs, and I will stand by that. If you've never been an implementer, you will always design rubbish programs, right? Because you don't understand how it is on the ground, and you don't understand what it takes, right? And also you don't have empathy for people, because sometimes I see people and I'm just like, look, it's not easy to implement, it's not easy to gather 1,000 people in a room to be teaching them skills. It's not easy, right? It's not. But having been on the implementer side, where you now go to the other side, then you and I also know when people are just bullshitting you, you're just like, come on, I know I've done this thing. Right? So I think that every single thing that I've done and has added to this, and I know that whatever I do next is also just going to be sort of a layer onto what I've done now. Yeah. So I feel like I've been talking for a while, so I really hope that was
that was such a
that was basically what the journey was, and the journey has been.
Wow, that's such a sweet story, really. If I could, I'll let you just keep going
on.
Okay, so I mean, I took a few notes from your journey and everything that you have just shared, and I think that it is worth highlighting that people should question status quo. Don't say because that's how it is, that's how it should always be. Question it, and then allow yourself to play with your sense of interest.
Yes.
Because if you don't explore your interests, you may just continue to do work for the sake of working and never really enjoy what you're doing. And also, I mean, I took from the last one where you took a pay cut, that you should determine your pay.
It wasn't really a pay cut, but it wasn't like, how nowadays people say they want 2x their salary on the next job. It actually was not even up to them. It was like 10%.
Yes. But you knew that your pay on that job was not money. It was something else.
Something else.
On the long run, it has paid off. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Love it. For the next question, I almost want to touch on a few things you said. When you were talking about being an EA, people don't realize how much of a superpower that role is. But that's not what I want you to touch on. I'm just saying it because I can't wait for us to just flesh out all the reasons that you gave and highlight it to people, to different people. But then you said two things. One was, infectious companies, and you meant that in a good way. What do infectious companies have going for them in terms of the people, the systems, the itself?
So what I would say is that it's the people. Honestly, like the systems might not be great, and the truth is that everywhere I've worked, I can complain about the systems. There's no perfect company, and some are worse than others, right? But I think that there has to be a conscious effort by the owners of the company to make people feel like they care about them, and not in this company's family.
No, I run away from that.
It's about we actually care. So I'll give you an example from CC Hub, right? During COVID, when COVID first of all started, one of my team members got COVID, right? And when we went on management meeting, the first thing that management said was, we need to create a care package for this person. right? Oh, the person is in a hospital. What can we create that makes the person stay in the hospital easier? That's such a basic thing. It's not written anywhere in the company policy that if someone gets COVID, you have to send them a care package. Right? But like just that intentional thought about people.
Intentionally care about your people.
You just have to care about people. It's not about like, and you have to be willing to go outside, color outside the lines, right? You know, there are all these HR guidelines, that's fine, but people are people, so you have to show them that I actually care about you, right? Konga as well was quite similar in that they always found a way to make way for a person. Like they always found a way to make, I mean, that also creates chaos, but right? But they will always try and make room for your idiosyncrasies. Konga was the first place that I saw that they said they created a place for smokers. Nigerians don't care whether you smoke, right? They say go and smoke outside.
Yeah.
Right? But then the smoking even became a thing because all the cool people would go and smoke, and then it now became like a thing of, you know, if you, and you know, it's about people, right? So if you needed a favor from someone, if you are a smoker, and then it's easier, they will attend to your request fast. You know, that kind of thing. So
human beings.
Yeah, human beings are human beings, but like just genuine like care. And there's just so many examples. And Konga was the first place where I understood what HR is supposed to be. It's not like in a lot of companies just HR. Yeah. Like it's people.
It's people.
Right. And the way they did let me stop calling it. We didn't even call it HR. I can't remember what the name was because it was such a long time. But like every team had a dedicated person. Right? So maybe if there are 10 teams, there will be 4 HR people. And the HR person's job is to make sure the team is happy.
Yeah.
So right? And like that's why they were able to say, okay, Oyinkan, it's very difficult for you to get to work at 9 a.m. Come in at 10 a.m. But then you can leave at... So a lot of people had individual things that the company was doing for them. Obviously, like there's some standards like, please don't come and... But also that flexibility too has its issues because it's a funny story about one guy like this and how like, because before we used to do card swiping, people could just walk in, people could bring their friends. It was such a good, interesting way of working. You could bring your friends to have a chat and no one's monitoring you. No one say, oh, you're sitting here just with your friend. No, because when the tasks are ready,
you need to deliver.
You need to have people over in the office and stuff. And so one time, this guy had been dating this girl, and I don't know, maybe they had broken up or whatever. And then he was dating another girl in the office, and this girl literally came into the office and said, oh, where is this person? And they're like, oh, the person is there. And the person walked in and actually stabbed the person. I'm telling you, like. Anyway, it was it was interesting.
So from then on, we couldn't just let anyone. That had to change. We had to change that policy. But it's true that you know, I like what you said because sometimes you find that one of the things about and being that my profession is actually people and culture, right? Or our profession. One of the things that I've seen time and time again is that people are quite rigid, and so you have people, you know, which is one of the reasons why I struggle when people say I studied. What's that word? What's that?
Industrial relations.
No, is that one or personnel
management?
Yeah, I'm always a bit. I'm like, I worry about the flexibility that you would use in approaching this role because that's what it is. HR, you can't manage people the same way, even the next day, because human beings, the one thing you can be sure that they will do is change. What made them happy on Monday may upset them on Tuesday, you know. So I like how you've mentioned it's just being intentional and also being flexible in how you manage them. Thanks. That's very helpful.
Thank you. After working with startups across Nigeria, Rwanda, Ghana, Uganda,
Kenya.
What governance and digital security blind spots do you see that African tech companies consistently miss out until it's probably too late? You know, are there governance policy mistakes that you see countries repeating?
So I think on governance, like people don't understand how important having a good board is. You have to think about your board as an extension of your company. Who can I put on my board that can help my company grow? Right? It's not about my friends, it's not about my rich uncle. It's not about all those things. It's about who can sing the praises of my company when I'm not in the room, and who can open doors for me. But who do I also trust to give me good advice, and not who I trust to agree with me? Because the truth is that you don't always make good decisions, right? And you need to have a board that will say, actually, you're being stupid. You might be angry that they're telling you that you're being stupid, right? But you need to, and I think it's also it's a pride thing. I guess it's maybe a sense of ownership and not wanting to relinquish control, right? So I think that's the big thing I would say to everyone. Like, really think about your board and who is on your board, and recruiting for your board. Like, not like what is this person actually bringing to the table, right? So that's the first thing I would say. I think on security, I think people are getting better, because when you have customer data, if anything happens, nobody trusts your app again, or whatever. So I think they're getting better, but I think they're doing it as a checkbox exercise and not actually thinking about privacy. I really care about privacy, because I think that, like, we live so much of our lives online. That it can't just be Wild West. There has to be some guardrails, but the companies are fighting guardrails because they profit of the fact that it's the Wild West, right? And so what I would like to see more is people to design their products with privacy as the front. It's more expensive, right? So, for example, something I think about all the time, you know that when we use let me not say anybody, when we use apps for delivery, the drivers on the apps have our addresses,
house addresses,
they have numbers.
That always, I think,
like,
about that.
It's crazy, and I'm not saying it's a wrong. I'm just saying, like, can we design that model better? But also, the thing is, it also takes kidney from the customers, right? It also takes an effort from the customers, because people want things now, right? So these are things that I just sometimes think about. Or I remember one time I joined like an investment app. I looked at it, okay, it's nice, the user interface, it's alright. I didn't really want to use it. I tried to close my account, nowhere to close my account. Okay, but how do I? Because I put my everything in there. I could not do. I could not close my account. I messaged customer. I had to message the founder on Twitter that, please, I
need to get out. I want out.
And I still not get a response.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. I'm just like, it's not by force now. Must I be here? It's just because I'm less busy. If I was someone that was crazy, I would take you to Nigeria Data Protection, whatever, and say, but this was years ago, so there was no check. But I don't want to use your app. I don't want to use your app. So make it easy for people to opt out. And then maybe when they're opting out, you ask them why they're opting out. You can't force people to
remain here
things
forever.
like that. It's like, oh, you have listed an app, you are still messaging me. Why?
Exactly. That
one bothers me. I've left your app. I'm not interested in your whatever now. Right? So I think I think we have a very long way to go in Nigeria. A very, very long way to go. What I would say is that some companies are quite good in that. It's not like the delivery driver will be messaging you after. No, that's not
until it happens. But for now it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened to me, but it happens to people.
Oh wow!
It happens to people, but
it happens to my sister as well.
It happens to some people. So there's also this extra training. Are they doing the extra training that they need to do? And if that kind of thing happens, what is the redress mechanism? Like, is there somewhere that someone can flag and say, and then can you yank the person off? Or they don't think about these things because they just want the riders to deliver whatever they want to deliver. So there's a lot of stuff that I think that we need to think about when it comes to both privacy, security, and governance. So these are just my short answers.
Privacy, security, and governance. Okay. So I like your role. Your role is such a sweet role. Country manager, UK Nigeria Tech Hub. And so I'll just think about how when I look at HR, I always feel like HR gets such a bad rap for. You hear companies saying that we're too people-centric, people saying we're too company-centric, and we're always trying to fight for that balance. I look at your role and I think once you have that in that whole mix between UK and Nigeria, you must be constantly thinking about the balance. How are you promoting UK interest? How are you promoting Nigeria interest? How are you supporting Nigeria's tech, growth, but also letting that go back to the UK as well? How are you balancing that? I won't even call it tension, but how are you balancing that?
So I think the way I think about it is that both countries need each other, right? And there's a long history between both countries, and because of that, mutual growth on both sides work, right? And so that's the way I kind of balance it. I always try and find things that benefit both countries at the same time. And even if it only benefits one country, in the long term, does it benefit another country, right? And I think that's the way I manage it. And the truth is that life is not 100% balanced. You can't always, and I think that's the fallacy that we tell ourselves, like, I can have work-life balance. No, it's not true. It means, it can mean that on Monday you give 100% to work, and on Tuesday you give 100% to family. On Wednesday it's 50%. Another day 70-30, right? But actually acknowledging that balance, right, helps you to be a more full person. And I bring the same approach to work. Some days I'm doing things that is only Nigeria focused. Sometimes I'm doing things that only UK focused. And some things I'm doing something that is both. And I see where the intersection is, and then I'm happy, right? And so I think that's the way and you just have to resign. You can't be the good guy all the time. I think that's my approach. And that pains me because I used to be such a people pleaser, and I'm trying to get over that. So, but you can't please people all the time.
Love it. Yeah,
that's so good. So with all that you get to do now, there's the need to determine what your success factors are. So how do you measure your impact? What are a few things from your work with the UK Tech Hub that you're proud of?
So I think I'm really focused on growth. I think there are too many people that are already focused on investment, and everyone wants to raise, but we're not really thinking about like these products, who is going to use it? Are we actually consuming it? And I think something that I'm really, really passionate about is getting more people to use tech products. Like that's like my dream, that not everyone needs technology, but at least everyone should have access and everyone should be able to use it. So the programs that I design are always like focused on growth, or giving people more access to the internet or technology or opportunity, because people don't realize that access to the internet is opportunity, right? People just people's lives change by being able to access jobs or whatever. So that is what impact is to me. And so if I can say I've done a program and XYZ people have been able to change their lives and have moved on from doing this to this. Or, someone reached out to me the other day. I think I went to an event and the person said, I used to be on one of your programs and now I'm teaching the same thing on another program. This is years later, right? But the way funding cycles work, it doesn't let you measure years and years and years of impact. But that's the impact you're having. You touch someone's life today, and in 5 years' time, the person has done something completely different. And so for me, that is impact. I think impact is also addressing areas that people don't usually address. I like to do the hard things, right? So when people say, why are you doing this? I'm like, because no one is doing that, right? So and those things might not bring fruit now. And I think that's the experimental part of me. But in 5 years' time, if someone comes to ask, then there is some sort of thing. So last year we did something called creative mapping exercise. And when I pitched the project, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I was like, see, you're asking people to invest in the creative ecosystem, but you don't know where things are. You don't know where the infrastructure is. You don't know where the investment is. You don't know who the players are. So I commissioned some research around mapping that. And now everyone's like, oh my gosh, such an amazing thing. They even took it to, they had a thing in London, and because if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know how many cinemas we have, how do you know if cinema business is a good business? If you don't know how many graphic designers we have, how do you know if training in this space makes sense? There might be oversaturation. How many jobs are in this space? So there's no point training 1 million graphic designers and there are only 200 jobs. It just creates problem for the 200 that are already there, because they will not start pricing them low. Right? So those are the things that we need to really think about when we want to say we want to invest in this space, right? And I think something that really made me feel some type of way was, I remember I was talking to someone who had made a film, an animated film, and the person was saying that, do you know that most of the money on this film didn't go to Nigerians? They went to people outside the country because they have the technical expertise. So even in the creative space, right, the technical skills that we don't have, right? And I was really thinking, how do you capture some of that value, right? The editors abroad would maybe still be better or whatever, but how do you even start to capture some of that value here? And so those are the type of things that make
interest
me, and that's kind of impact I'm thinking about. Even if let's say last year $100,000 went out, Can it only be $80,000 this year? Can the $20,000 at least go to Nigerians? And that's the way I think about impact. I don't think about it. I don't count numbers. I don't say, oh, I have to train 1 million people. No, I have to do, like for me, I'm happy to do a program that's focused on depth than breadth.
Yes.
Right? Obviously, sometimes you need breadth too.
Yes.
It's necessary, right? But I think that's my personal philosophy. I'm more of a depth person than a breadth person. And that's how I think about impact as well. I think if I've changed the way a person thinks about one thing or changed their life trajectory, then that is impact for me. Yeah.
Love it. I think, it's very clear. I can already tell what the topic is for this podcast, and that really happens. It's very clear. It's very, and I didn't even realize how much of a question asker you are. But you ask a lot of questions. You do, and I think that's one of your superpowers or one of your skills. But even just looking through this journey and how you've woven it and navigated it, what would you say other skills that brought you this far are beyond just asking hard questions?
Something that I always emphasize to people that are younger than me is that you have to be excellent at what you do to be able to live the life you want to live, right?
A good life.
I'm not even a good life. I'm kind of person that there are things that I just don't like. I hate when you tell me to come to the office and wear shoe, like wear heels, all those things, right? And what I realized on my journey is that the people that they give exceptions for are excellent.
Yeah.
So if you're excellent at your job, you can literally get away with it.
Yeah.
And that is my guiding light, right? There are things that I do that I know that if other people do it, it's trouble. But because you're excellent at your job, they'll only be like, what's always wrong with you, Seth? Why must you wear short skirts to the office? Why must you wear slippers to the office? I'm sorry. That's all. But the next day you still do whatever you want to do. Because you are excellent at your job. It doesn't work in everywhere, but guess what? I have a friend that works in a bank, and she does whatever she wants to do. And you would think that the bank, they still complaining, but because she's excellent at her job, sometimes I say, are you coming from the office like this? She said, yeah, we just went to the office. I said, they must meet you in your office. Say, yes, they don't like me, but guess what? They can't do anything about it because I deliver 100%, 200%. No one can. So when you even come and complain, this and that, they'll be like, please leave her alone. Her boss will be like, please leave her alone. She's delivering for me. But then I guess that only works when you also have a boss that has sense. If you have a boss that also doesn't have sense, then they'll try and exactly. So it's not 100. Like you also need to gauge your environment, right? Make sure that when I started my career today, they say, oh, you must always wear heels to the office. I said, okay. When I enter, I wear the heels. When I get to my desk, I remove it and put it on that table and wear my flat slippers. Do you get? So sometimes you have to conform earlier in your career, yes. And even creatives, I feel like they shouldn't conform, but honestly there's structure to life.
There is.
Honestly there is structure, and unless you are structured, you can never make those millions. Like I listen to so many podcasts. Like the other day I was listening to a podcast on George Lucas and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember. But like these guys are creatives, blockbusters. They have structure. They're not just doing anything anyhow.
Yes.
Right? So this idea that we are in tech, no.
We're allowed to be fluid.
No. But anyway, that's just my own opinion, actually. Please,
no room for anyhowness.
That's the way I see things. So I think excellence, but second thing is curiosity. Like,
yes,
you don't know what you don't know, and you have to be proud to not know what you don't know, and then do something about it. Right? I remember earlier in my career, I always feel like I have to know. You don't have to know anything. What you need to do is you need to be curious and be willing to be like, I don't know this, but I want to learn. Right? And then dedicate the time. I didn't know anything about digital security when I and you also have to be bold.
Yes.
Because I remember at CC Hub, digital security was a completely different department.
Yeah, it was.
I made a pitch for them to merge it. And they're like, why? I said, no, I can't do it. I didn't know. I had not done anything on it, right? But I just felt like, there's similarities between digital security and governance. I can see, let me just, right? And then that just really changed the way I think about things. So you have to be willing to experiment and you have to go for what you want, even if they say no. Because I had no like 2 or 3 times before they merged those 2 departments. right?
Wow.
But I think now that I've left, they've separated it again. But yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
As post you.
Post me. Yeah, that's the new person's business. But like, you just have to go, and it doesn't always work. Like, I've tried to do things, and people are just like, no, we do things this way, and that's fine. But I think you just need to try. I think that's my two things: excellence and just trying. Yeah.
Yes, love it. So, ask hard questions.
Yeah, ask hard questions.
Just going through your life, right? Be excellent. You know, I was thinking excellence gives you a pass. Being excellent gives you a pass. Staying curious and being bold. And I have literally watched you do all these 4 things across board. So great skills to have. Yeah.
Yes. So now that you're a role model.
Yeah.
You may not see yourself as that, but for a young person who's listening to this podcast and following your journey, right? You're a model of some sort. You know, how are you going to advise somebody who wants to, work the way you are now and position themselves at the intersection of policy and technology? What's the path?
I would say just take all the chances, right? Apply to the jobs, apply to things that you find interesting, try and create things for yourself, right? So you can reach out to people and say, oh, I read in an article that you have this problem. Can I come and work with you for like 2 months to try and help you solve this problem? I know that Nigeria is hard and stuff, but I think to have an unconventional career, you have to do unconventional things.
Yes.
And I know that Nigeria is hard, so I'm not going to try and make it seem like, oh, it's so easy, but the people that I see that do things differently have tried things very differently. Like, I don't know, Maiwa, I'm just so amazed at Maiwa Alabi and his work, right?
Yes.
And the way Maiwa approaches doing things is so different. It's so different.
Yeah.
So if you want to be exceptional, you need to do things differently. And also just chase all your interests. Like I was telling someone the other day, like I'm doing this now, but there's something else I'm thinking about doing next, right? And I just realized, and people are like, oh, why are you interested in this? And I realized that I've always been interested in this thing, right? I just didn't, like I put it on the back burner for a while, and now it's coming back. And then when people ask me, oh, where the sudden interest from, it's not sudden. Like I can really track all the points in my life where I was interested in this thing, but I put it on the back burner, and that thing might help you in another thing. So don't always think, oh, not because I'm not doing this thing now, I can't do it in the future. You can just drop it for now, and then like 5 years time you pick it up. Like interests don't die. I think that's one thing that I would say. And so today you might be interested in being a video editor or something, and maybe you have to work in a bank. Tomorrow come out of the bank and do video editing. Maybe, and something I was listening to a podcast. I said, look, is your 9-to-5 job that you used to take risk? Your 9-to-5 job is what you use to take risk, because the money you make from a 9-to-5 job that will help you take risk.
Consistent structure.
So all this, be an entrepreneur, is easy to say, but actually it's easier to have a job and take risks. Right? So really focus on like finding a place that can give you that structure. I know that's not what young people want to hear, but you need this. Honestly, there's a difference between people that have worked somewhere and people who just come and say they run their own business. I can tell the difference. There's a difference. There's something that structure does to the way you think, and the way you approach tasks. It's not scattered. Because you have to go through, for example, this person will review, this person will review, this person. So that way you're already thinking, okay, what can I say so that this person does not think I'm stupid? Right? But when you come just on your own, there's no one to check your excesses, and then you think, oh, you're this amazing person. Honestly, find structure. Even if you have your own business, find a way to it might even be a mentor. I don't know how mentorship works nowadays, right? But maybe a mentor can give you structure. So that's kind of just my own advice.
Very good advice, invaluable advice.
Thank you. So we have questions that come from our community, and so we try and just apportion them to different people. And there was one that we got that was quite interesting. So I'll read it out to you. It says, so we call it our agony aunt section, right? So Oyinkan, as an agony aunt, right, says, I work in HR, and my boss recently asked me to help implement a new employee monitoring system that tracks everything: emails, browsing history, even location. I feel uncomfortable with how invasive it is, but when I mentioned privacy concerns, he said this is standard practice now and that I am being naive about security. I'm unsure if what we're doing is legal. And I'm also concerned that employees will dislike me for implementing this. But I also can't afford to lose my job by refusing. Am I overreacting about this privacy thing? Or am I right that something is actually wrong here?
Oh, it's a very tough question. I'm so sorry that you're in such a situation. And what I would say is that when you work in somewhere, when you get a job somewhere, it has terms and conditions. You either agree or you don't agree, right? And that's the harsh truth about it. And a lot of organizations monitor their employees' emails. They track the location on company devices. So it has to be company devices, but you have to give people a chance to opt in or opt out, right? If they opt out, they should carry their load and go. If they opt in, then they are bound by the rules of the organization, right? I think tracking your location on your device is fine, but your employees need to know
that's happening.
So that's what she just without. Yeah, you can't. So she needs to tell them, we are implementing this new policy, A, B, C, D. This is how it's going to work. Opt in, opt out. You need to get an email signature. Like, they need to respond and say they agree or they don't agree. People that don't agree need to pack their load and go. It's just that simple. What I will say is that they're definitely like crossing the line. So like things like monitoring every single maybe voice conversations that they have. Monitoring what employees do when they're off work legally. Not allowed. Even location tracking, you can know where your device is, but doesn't mean that you should be listening to them.
You know what they're
yeah. So I think that the organization needs to figure out what works, but then also you have to think about your employees. Think about your most valuable employees. Would they leave because of this? And if they will leave, how are you going to replace them? Yeah. So you can't just implement a policy without thinking about all the backups and everything, And then also maybe try and understand why the guy feels like that. Does he feel like productivity is low?
It's lower.
Have you tried to? I mean, honestly, it is industry standard to monitor your employees' emails. That one is not. Anyone that thinks that, don't do anything on your work laptop that you don't want anybody knowing about, right? Because if you read some of the terms, it even says that they own. It depends on where you work. Some people can say that whatever is on a laptop, I'm doing it.
They own it, yeah.
So, right. So I think it depends on what the terms were before they joined. It's tough, but that's why I said, like, honestly, some days you just have to be the bad guy. You just have to be, honestly, and I think that's the tough thing about like being in the middle between management and the people.
Yeah.
But then I think sometimes there are also different ways in which you can pass a message across that doesn't seem like you are targeting the employees, right? It might be, we heard that our competitors are trying to do something. Like there are different ways in which to couch. I think people don't think a lot about internal comms.
Yeah.
I think a lot about external comms, and the great companies really care about internal comms. The company Konga, we used to receive like email sometimes from our chairman, and he will go on this like long rambling, very interesting things that'll make you say, I love this company. By the time I say I read this book, then he will now do it. He say, actually, so this is why we need to right? That's internal comms, right? The way you communicate to your employees internally matters, and so you probably need to figure out some internal comms that makes the fallout not as damaging as it will be. And you need to pay for that. I know people don't like paying for things. Nigerians, or I don't know wherever it is, maybe person might never in Nigeria, pay for a proper specialist to come and tell you how to break the message. Don't just ChatGPT is, because the person cannot understand the nuances of your company. They don't understand who the top performers are. They don't understand. ChatGPT can never understand that. Or so you need to actually get a person. That's if the employer actually cares about the organization. If he doesn't care, then but I think that, as you said, you can't afford to lose your job. So there's really nothing you can do. You can try and maybe implement less strict controls. So yes to email monitoring, yes to liquidation, whatever. But maybe there's another thing that he's saying. You can say no. I don't think we should do that. Or you can face it.
Mile.
You don't have to do everything at the same time. You can face it. You can say, you guys, today, we found out that someone leaked an email of what we are doing to something, so we have to monitor. Not because we don't trust you people, but just so that it doesn't happen, and so that it doesn't affect our bottom line, because you can say, this is what happened and now it's affecting our bottom line. You know, so they're different. You know, I'm not an internal cost specialist, but I think that there are ways to break unpalatable news. But just know that people are going to be unhappy, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you just have to suck it up and like wear your big boy or big girl pants. And just be like, well, you know, some people might just not talk to you for a few days, but guess what? This storm shall pass.
This storm shall pass.
This storm shall pass. This storm shall pass. That's it. The storm shall pass. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
All right. So at this point, you please tell us 3 things: 1 book, 1 song, and 1 movie.
Yep.
Okay. So the book that I read recently that I absolutely loved was The Dalagot Dream Department Store, and it's by a Korean author called Mie Lee. I hope I didn't say that wrong. And I really liked it because it was around like selling dreams, right? And there was like a department store, and every floor had different types of dreams, and it was about the employees that worked in the store, and it basically just showed how dreams comfort people, right? And every dream that you have is for a particular reason, right? And there's also a spirituality behind it, but it didn't seem spiritual when I was reading, but it was so interesting around like why, because there was a part of the dream around like why, of the book around like why do you have nightmares? Because in the book there are people that create nightmares, and people are like, why? Like, those are the terrible people. And the owner of the dream store was like, you need nightmares so that people can appreciate
the good
dreams. Or people are in nightmares because there's something they're subconscious that they've not dealt with, that they need to deal with, and until you deal with that, you're gonna have that nightmare, right? So it was just such an interesting book, and I really enjoyed it. It was really, really small, but it was really impactful. And there's a part 2 that I can't wait to read. I just haven't found time to read it. So that's my one book recommendation.
Yeah, that's quite unconventional.
Yes.
So one song.
One song. The song that I'm listening to a lot now is on Cardi B's new album.
Not surprised?
Yeah, because I love Cardi B. And it's called Check Please.
Okay.
I really like it. And the song basically just says that, look, I've allowed you to do your thing. It's now my turn. And I'm the big dog in town. So yeah, you guys like, okay, you know, you guys allowed you guys to do your little things, but now I'm here, and I think that that's sort of the season I'm in. So I guess that's why it resonates with me a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Your one movie.
So I'm not really a movie watcher, but I'm watching a series now on Amazon called The Girlfriend, which is hilarious. I love it. It's like,
is it Korean?
no, it's not. But it's how this guy meets a girl that he really likes, and his mom doesn't like her. And it's like this interesting drama around how they're both trying to like manipulate him to be like on their side, and it's so interesting because you can see that both of them are actually crazy.
And so
no, like they are both crazy, but
they
it's just
should
like
get
who
along.
is more crazy than the other one? Because the mom is like this kind of like smothering, oh my son, and now that the son has met this girl, the son is like, first of all, saying he's not going to medical school to study what he wanted to study, he wants to study, and I think she was like, from where? Then the girl too is also a crazy person because she's not who she seems she is. She's a bit of a, like, she lies a bit just to because the guy is from like a very proper like English family. They speak and she's from like one barracks place like this, like, so she's pretending to be what she's not. So like they keep trying to catch each other out. Like the mom would be like, oh, you said she not like she went to one school. Well, I don't understand. She should have just said one school that nobody knows. She not said one school that everybody, the mom was asking her, oh, so you know this person, she has to now, so she'll not be trying to dodge. And then I said one time she went on holiday with them, and then they were like, she in this school they're very good at tennis. You can play tennis very well, Abi. She said,
oh goodness.
Like, so it's just so funny and interesting, like in the ways that they're trying to like catch each other out. So but I haven't finished watching it, but apparently it's really good. So,
oh wow.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Oyinkan. We're so excited to have had you on OnPeople. Anytime. Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of OnPeople. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Oyinkan as much as we did. Don't forget to subscribe and listen on your favorite podcast platforms. to keep the conversation going. Drop comments and questions on our social media handles. Until next time, bye for now.